everyone, Pun here. A Pun I likes to play games, react to stuff. Like some of those things, or plays gotcha. Well, I got you covered. And today's wonderful day, reacting day, we're reacting to some Dylan Hollis. Now without echo. Okay, if any of you watched the my latest the video before this, when I uploaded another me reacting to some of his shorts, you noticed the echo. Yeah, again, I apologize for that one. What literally happened was, I think the music was too loud, and every time I talked, it picked up on the mic. It was only when I talked, so you really don't notice it, but it kind of made the video, I don't know, it may have made the video funnier. Also, by the way, thank you for all the love you're showing that video, by the way. That is fantastic. But anyway, we're gonna be reacting to one of his long form content videos today. This is, I think, one of his longer ones. This is the Food of the Gods 1909 recipe, the mystery dessert from 1909. Alright, it is a video that came out 3 years ago. We're gonna be checking it out. The video will be located in the description below, or if you want to check out the video, or if you want to check out the channel itself, the channel will be in the title below. Also, this is streamed live on Twitch, Pun_D at twitch.com. Link to that Twitch channel will be in the description below. I usually try to stream, just check what I just check when I go live. Usually you can follow me on Twitter when I try to go live or stuff like that. I also post memes on Twitter, so yeah, and that'll also be in the description below. With that in mind, let's get into this. Pop.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the kitchen, gentles and ladies.
Wait, did that F up in the beginning? Hang on. Get it.
Gentles and ladies. Oh, that was my rear. Welcome back.
Yep. You know what, Dylan? I thought you'd be used to being rear-ended. Moving on!
Welcome back to the kitchen, gentles and laymen. My name's Dylan Hollis. And I say, if I told you there was an old school mysterious dessert called Food for the Gods, would you have a clue what I'm going on about? Well, no. I certainly didn't. Or rather,
I like your hair, by the way.
Not, until I plastered my peepers upon this unit right here. Yes, this ancient text is certainly among my top 5 favorite books on cookery. Now,
that looks like you got it from an ancient tome. Okay, by the way, my model mic lagged slightly for no reason. I don't know why. I didn't do that when I was pre-recording. It's just doing it now. Anyway, but that looks like an ancient tomb. Like, not gonna lie, that actually looks like one of those ancient tombs, like back in the days of yore. Look at this ancient tomb. Alright, anyway.
Not only because it possesses the ominous title of Michigan Federation Cookbook, but also because it is 114 years old and
100 what? Okay.
And it's a community cookbook. You know how
114 community cook, what?
Feral I am for those. However, despite being
you like those? Okay. Everyone's got their stuff.
Aware that Food for the Gods is a thing, recipes are typically named in a fashion that allow us to deduce what the dish is going to be, i.e. a recipe for chocolate chip cookies is likely to be a cookie, and a carrot cake recipe is hopefully going to be a cake. Failing that, you look at the list of ingredients and infer from such. This
Okay, I get you. So does it could have ichor in it. It could be yeah, I'm guessing, okay, a little bit of a guess here. If it's Food for the Gods, I would have to say it would have to be something that would satisfy everybody's palate in a sense. I don't think it would be too sweet though, but it's gonna have sweetness to it because a lot of people like sweet things, not too sweet, but they like the sweetness of rich, and it's gonna have something that's gonna make you feel rich and fulfillment. Maybe I'm just making predictions here. I'm probably wrong. Anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that trick to get my model to not freeze.
This recipe is truly puzzling as it has neither. The name is tremendously undescriptive as food is the bare minimum for edible substrate, and the ingredients list is puzzling to say the least. To make matters worse, I found several instances of desserts calling themselves Food for the Gods amongst my old cookbook collection, each with their own unique ingredients list and unique take on the method, leaving us completely up in the air as to what on earth it is. So naturally, why don't we
strap in? So it's basically like a grab bag or gamba of it. Interesting.
We'll be starting with the 1909 recipe, then we'll be fast forwarding a half century and baking a 1961 iteration. After that, how about we ask the internet as to what on earth Food for the Gods is, and then finally we will be baking a recipe from my cookbook. Yes, that's right, the cat's out of the bag, and I couldn't be more excited to tell you that I have my own cookbook called Baking Yesteryear.
Okay, so basically, okay.
It comes out this July everywhere books are sold. It's available for pre-order now, and I'll go ahead and plaster those links all over the place. Honestly, it's going to be so much fun. Oh, so that's where you've been. I said, yes, I've been writing a cookbook. Sorry about that. But that
I wonder, since he hasn't been really uploading shorts recently, like as much, I wonder if he's making another cookbook. We'll see.
Now and this is then. How about we start by opening up the pages of this here Michigan Federation cookbook? Now, the Michigan Federation is not some strange spin-off of the Illuminati. No, rather, it is the MSFWC, which is a mouthful.
What?
And you say, Dylan, that is tremendously helpful. What on earth is it?
Yeah, what is that?
It is the Michigan State Federation of Women's Clubs.
Oh,
a
okay.
member of the still extant General Federation of Women's Clubs, and this particular chapter dates back to as far as 1895, which I suppose in the context of this book is not that long. As you see, it is dated September of 1909 with the opening statement.
No.
To the Club Women of Michigan, the homemakers and homekeepers of our state, this little book of rules for good cookery is dedicated.
Okay.
May its usefulness ensure, with an I, its welcome into every home.
Wait. Why do you say? Oh my gosh! Wait. I didn't realize that. Oh my gosh! That is the smell of the air. I was like, wait, ensure. Why is that? Oh, because I think you're. Hang on. Let me double check because I'm a little dyslexic when it comes to spelling. Let me check this. ENSURE. Guarantee. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, so I guess they were trying to do something different. Okay.
Tremendously formal. Anyway, enough rambling and on to the subject at hand. Our
Gosh, that text. You can see the text bleeding through a little bit, but that's still good.
food for the gods recipe falls under the classification of puddings. And if I
Huh? The reason it does because on the thumbnail it kind of looked like a pie, but okay.
turn the page, you can behold the glory written by a Miss Cora Tullis Reed from
Okay. Huh.
Benton Harbor. And as was typical for the time, you can see that we do not have a separate list of ingredients followed by a method. No, everything is condensed into paragraph form, which to be honest, I quite prefer depending on what it is I'm making. But alas, we start with the whites of 6 eggs, followed by 2 cups of sugar.
6 eggs beaten stiff. What do you... Okay.
6 tablespoons of cracker crumbs. What cracker they mean, we have no idea. It might even be me. Next up is 2
Damn it, shush!
teaspoons of baking powder, a cup of chopped English walnuts, and 1 cup of cut dates. Do you see what I mean? Just precisely what this is not easily inferred. But that's not going to stop us from getting some eggies. Welcome to the famed countertop where I prepare my meals alongside the oft disastrous TikToks. But before we beat up our whites of the eggs, as the book so calls, we're going to wipe down our vessel with some white vinegar. I'll admit that I do not clean this countertop for TikToks, but I did just clean it for YouTube, so I reckon I must think more highly of you folks. But anyway, we wipe this down with white vinegar.
Why do you... Okay.
Just to get
Can
rid
I
of any
can I have a drink of that? Can I have a drink of that?
residue or...
By the way, I did get some comments like... I did get a comment like, wait, another weird person drinks it? Yeah, I also like pineapple on pizza, and also I drink pickle juice.
that can prevent your egg whites from being beaten up stiff. Time for eggies. You know, I used to separate my eggs one at a time, but I have since become converted to this method, whereby you crack everything into one vessel and then grip up the yolkies. Do you hear that murder of crows outside? Are they trying to, like, take down a deer? And I must say, though,
those are Odin's crows, Dylan. They know you're building the forbidden dessert. They're building the food of the gods, and Odin, one of the gods, is coming to stop you.
I love my
your food will cause Ragnarok.
wooden spoon and my whisk when it comes to beating egg whites stiff.
But I think I'm right? It's either crows or, well, actually, technically, I think, was it Odin or Raven? You know what? I probably just pissed off about methodology, people. I apologize, because I think maybe Mytha was a raven, not a crow. Oops.
I am a user of mixers.
Mixer, Dylan, but you barely know her.
All right, this is stiff, or at least stiff enough by my standards, and you'll see that the next instruction
Why does it stiffen up by her standards? Okay, shut up. Sorry.
is not an instruction.
Okay, to be fair, I'm making these jokes. Dylan makes these jokes too, so I'm not the only one.
It just says 2 cups of sugar. So we don't know whether that means to fold it in or to beat it in, but typically
When I read 2 cups of sugar, I assume that it's already poured in. That's what I always assume it would be. Like, you know, when they tell you the recipe, when they do the recipe to tell you how to put the stuff in, I always assume that was to pour it in, not beat it in. But yeah.
With egg whites and meringues, you beat in the sugar with the, your beaters or back with your whisks.
By the way, I love his long form videos because it's like teacher format, and I love it so much.
So we're gonna do that. We're also going to do that gradually. Cup number 2. All right, that is 2 full cups of sugar beaten in, and as
okay, I was right because I was predicting it would have to be sweet because when you put in my visualization, when I'm hearing gods, I'm hearing more of a flavor, like basically like a very rich, creamy flavor. But yeah.
You can see it's really quite thick and candy-like at this point, but we don't know what the recipe writer wants. We don't know if they want us, to beat this further to stiff peaks with the sugar in, or just move on as is. My gut tells me to beat this a little bit stiffer, and then we'll prepare everything else. Stiff! Now, the next ingredient requires us to make a little bit of an executive decision because it just says 6 tablespoons of cracker crumbs, meaning 6 tablespoons of soda cracker crumbs, saltines as we know them, or 6 tablespoons of graham cracker crumbs. The National Biscuit Company, Nabisco, was already mass-producing graham crackers by 1898, and the same was true for saltines in the 1870s, so...
Gotcha, okay. I would probably go with the second one. Because I can't, okay, here's the reason why I can't, well then again, I don't know, does salty stuff make things savory? That's my guess here. I'm thinking like the sweeter it is, the more savory it will be, but that's just my opinion. I don't know whatever would make it feel more savory to it, I would say put that in.
It could go either way, but truthfully, I'm of half a mind to say that it is soda crackers because if they wanted graham crackers, they would have specified, but I suppose that argument works both ways. But
yeah,
we're going to go with graham cracker crumbs today. Truthfully, it's not a bad assumption, and you'll see why a little later. Plus, graham crackers were all the rage in the 1900s and the 1910s. Sylvester Graham really had a hit on his hands. Now, as you can see, 6 tablespoons is not a lot. That's a mere tablespoon of crumbs, a tablespoon of dry ingredients per egg white. But even more perplexing is the addition of 2 teaspoons of baking powder. Does anyone have any idea as to why this is in here? Not only is the ratio strange, but with all the air in the egg whites, I don't quite see the point. I do, however, see the point in nuts and dates. They are both lovely, especially when the former comes after the latter.
I was gonna say, you know what? It's also a toss-up if your nuts have dates in them. Or on them, I guess, but not in them. Well, sometimes you get... Okay, moving on.
Here come the dates. The secret with these is just to use scissors. It is so much easier, and your knife doesn't get all gunky.
Oh, okay, cool.
With our cup of dates, that means we have all of our ingredients set up, but I want you to notice how, again, we don't have any instructions on how to mix everything together. But further
I just noticed that too. It just says bake. It doesn't tell you to preheat the oven either. What the oh my gosh.
Just what to
I wonder if back then, like, the reason they would say bake and stuff like that, it was like, there was like it was kind of like general knowledge of what they were making. So they was like, okay, bake it. And then the temperature is like a general knowledge. Like basically, like there was a range where everything gets baked and it says you can bake in that range. And it was apparently general knowledge. So that's why it was written like that.
This thing in, it could be anything. So I've made the decision to preheat the oven to 300 degrees because that's what slow means. And for mixing everything, we're going to start by folding in our crumbs, our dry ingredients, followed by our add-ins. And for the pan, I have chosen a 12-inch springform because I think...
So, okay, so quick notion and fact here. This is before he did the cold oven video because I was going to make the remark of the cold oven, but this is before that, so yeah.
I think that's the best size for the amount of meringue that we have. So into our stiff meringue goes the dry ingredients, and as before, it is going to deflate because meringue does not take lightly to visitors. And then in goes the dates and the walnuts. That actually does look quite good.
That does actually. It looks like marshmallows. I'm not gonna lie, I really like that. It looks very marshmallowy. I like it.
Then we are going to gloop this into our spring form with a parchment round. Now, could 12 inches be too big? Could it be too small? I have no idea, but this is nearly 7 cups of 7 cups of batter? 7 cups of goo.
I do notice, and I kind of like this, when Dylan's teaching, like when he's doing these teaching stuff, he's more of like doing these baking stuff, long forms. He's more teacher-esque and less joking, which I like. And it's really nice. I am learning.
So I don't know. I could be wrong, yes. Could they have provided a size? Yes. Do we smooth it out?
Could they provide it sounds like not gonna lie, that sounds like a Tinder thing. Could they provide it a size? Yes. If this is a blind date, yes. Why did he catfish me? Dang it.
I don't know, we could do anything. There aren't any rules. I am grateful that it tells us the temperature and the time, but again, without specifying the size of the bakeware, that could mean nothing, but...
What do you mean?
Anyway, 300 degrees, that's in Fahrenheit, for a half hour.
Well, yeah, because I don't... Can you put an oven in Celsius? I wonder if you could.
Good night. With our first food for the gods in the oven, I just wanted to share with you another example from the Michigan Federation Cookbook, which gives a perfect account of what I mean by how strange the recipes can be written using strange units of measurement.
Okay.
Oh, it's just bizarre. So if we turn to page 37, under the candy section, you'll find an entry called molasses candy.
Ew! No! 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 Ew! No! No! 1,000 times no! No! That doesn't even sound good! Ew! Ew! Why would that be a thing?
The premier recipe of this section, and it goes
The premiere of what? My disgustingness?
as follows. To every teacup
To every... Oh, wait. He'll read this.
of brown sugar, take 1 large kitchen spoon of molasses, butter half the size of an egg, cream tartar size of a pea. Boil without stirring till it hardens in water. Just before taking off, like a plane I suppose, add 1 tablespoon of vanilla. Pour on buttered tins and pull when cool.
I'm gonna be taking off my stomach. Ugh!
I mean, if you didn't know your way around the kitchen, you would be hopeless. I would not be able to replicate that, I'm sure of it. Now for that, let's see what we've got here. Oh,
Okay.
the big reveal, the grand finale. It's food for the gods! So, what do you think? It's just a bit of a white mass, isn't it? And it's deflating as we speak, so...
That actually looks kind of good, not gonna lie. It kind of looks like, not a pie, kind of like a cake, like a fluffy cake.
We're gonna let this cool down, decouple it, and then find a way to eat it. Alright, this is going to crack, it's just part of the game. Also, if you're curious, yes, this pan is closer to 11 inches than it is to 12. We call that Amazon sizing. Come on, let's go! Please cooperate.
No.
Whoa, minor casualty. Don't let that upset you, because as you'll see, as soon as you try and cut it, that will
does
happen
look like...
anyway. See, even completely
That
cool, it is just, it's strange.
It kind of looks like pie crust, but not actually pie. Like, it looks like,
It's a poofy meringue, but underneath it is, of course, gooiness. Which leads you to say, oh, did I do it wrong? But then you must remember, this was in the pudding section. We are to eat this with whipped cream.
Crunchy pudding, but let's go. Is it good? It should be.
So despite how it looks, it tastes really quite nice. It's got my...
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it should, like, you have a lot of sweet and tenderness to it. There's not, like, really abstract ingredients, and it really focuses on the thing.
my favorite flavor profile, which is sweet, dates, and nuts. But it's just...
Your dating profile, Dylan. Okay.
Well, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it? Looks horrendous. For one, we will never know what consistency this was supposed to be without a specified size of bakeware. 300 degrees Fahrenheit could be anything. If you're baking little meringue cookies, 300 degrees Fahrenheit for a half hour, they'll be quite hard and firm. But if you're using like a 9-inch springform pan, it'll be even more goop than this. What makes me think that this was not supposed to be hard and firm again was the fact that it was in the pudding section. Secondly, it definitely was too sweet without any salt to cut it, and personally, it didn't have enough structure. I don't know what the point of the graham cracker crumbs was, but it was certainly lost. But I am not...
I wonder if that was supposed to add texture somehow. I wonder if you redid the recipe again, Dylan, but this time, like, make it smaller. Like, put the, like, condense, or, well, smaller wouldn't really work. It sounds like with this recipe, it was, for me, it sounds like this recipe is supposed to be big without it getting hardened, which is interesting.
I'm lying to you when I say that this horrible, horrendous, ugly-looking dessert has an exceptionally awesome flavor, so much so that I desperately wanted to make it work. I must have baked this recipe from the Michigan Federation Cookbook 24 times, changing the baking time, the baking temperature, the size of the pan.
Okay, so basically...
of the ingredients, using saltine cracker crumbs, using graham cracker crumbs. I went full ham, and then I began scouring my old cookbook collection behind you for recipes of the same name. All right, folks, listen up. It's 1961.
Okay.
Specifically 1961, in the small town of Lindsborg, situated in the north of McPherson County,
So basically you control F your textbook library. I gotcha.
Kansas. A town known as Little Sweden, because very nearly a third of its inhabitants are of Swedish descent.
Oh, no.
But within Lindsborg
Dylan, I'm sorry, Dylan, I gotta sneeze. Dylan, I got... Sorry, I had to sneeze, Dylan, I'm sorry. Somebody's talking about me.
Private Bethany College and the Bethany College's auxiliary program put out this year cookbook titled Measure for Pleasure. And I gotta tell you, it's an interesting one.
You know what? I understand that's a cookbook. Not gonna lie, Measure for Pleasure could sound like a title for a other type of video. Yeah.
Not only because it's massive, covering a whole range of salads to appetizers to main meals to desserts, but because it has Swedish desserts and like Scandinavian classics amongst American dishes. It's very bizarre. But for our purposes, it is interesting because on page 191, we have none other than a food for the gods recipe.
Okay.
And upon us taking a gander, you can see, well, it's completely different. If we start in the rightmost column, we now have some salt. 1/8 of a teaspoon, which is a measurement you don't see very often, mostly because, well, it's useless. We have egg yolkies now. That's new. Half the amount of eggs, though. We also have half the amount of sugar, and it's now in powdered form. The egg whites we're familiar with, and we have some added flavor with a teaspoon of vanilla. Moving to the leftmost column, gone are the cracker crumbs, and in its place is flour, 2 tablespoons. It's important to note that the...
I guess that makes sense, yeah, because now you're removing the crunchiness and you're going with the,
The abbreviation for tablespoon wasn't quite standardized yet, and in many ways still isn't. So this book uses an uppercase T for tablespoon and a lowercase t to denote teaspoons. Speaking of teaspoons...
Okay, so I do know about this one. Okay, thank you, Dylan, for talking about that one. I do know this one. I was taught about this one. Big T, little t. I was taught about that when I was really young. It's still confusing to this day. Like, when I was measuring, I always had that confusion. Because I would always grab, like, when I helped the cook with Mama Pun, I always had that issue because they were like, grab a tablespoon, and I would grab this and go, nah, it's a teaspoon. How you know? The letter's not capitalized. Huh? You know, like, it was always that weird stuff. That's why I was like, okay, just what's a cup? Like cups are so much easier.
Spoons, we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder. That makes a return despite the small amount of flour, as does a cup of walnuts, specifically English walnuts, and again, our friend, a cup of dates. So looking at this ingredients list is a bit like looking at the child of a friend that you know very well, right? They're their own unique person, but you can see features of the parents sprinkled throughout. In our case, we have baking powder, English walnuts, and dates, alongside the small amount of dry ingredients compared to wet. However, this food for the gods ingredients list from 1961 resembles a pudding even more so than our first 1909 recipe, despite the fact that that was situated within the puddings section. And when I say puddings, right, I don't mean the American understanding of puddings, like Jello puddings, like custard consistency.
Okay.
I mean the greater family of dessert puds, everything from like creme brulee, souffle adjacent desserts, all the way up to boiled or steamed affairs like figgy pudding or sticky.
Oh, I'm ignorant. Thank you, Dylan. That was very ignorant of me. I didn't know that.
Toffee pudding. This ingredients list upon first glance I would call a baked pudding, or a sponge we would call it in the Commonwealth. But unlike sponges and baked puddings, this does not have any fat nor milk. This is in a class of its own. I say, let's explore. Our first instruction is to mix together flour, baking powder, nuts, and dates. Also, look at the size of these bananas. I don't know where you Americans are getting these things. I have seen smaller plantains. In goes 2 mere tablespoons.
Hey, our bananas are
2 teaspoons of floof powder, as I want to call it. Once again, I'm being a miser and only using regular walnuts.
Why?
The perennial edition of the date. Now, despite the fact that the 2 recipes we've looked at thus far both specified dates, I actually have 2 other recipes, both from 1909 and both from Boston for Food for the Gods, that don't specify this. These 2 recipes are quite fond of dates. So this is our flour, baking powder, nuts, and dates all mixed up.
I wonder if it's because back in the day, dates were more abundant and easier to... Like, maybe dates were like kind of like a recipe you can get an abundance of. Maybe.
Start just with the yolks. So let's crack everything into this one, and then we will pull the yolks. Come on, yolky.
Yolks on
now
you.
We need to beat these 3 egg yolks together with 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, which is what half of a quarter teaspoon. So it's just 1 or 2 little grains. And we beat until lemon colored. It's already lemon colored. Yeah, it's lightened up a bit. Then
This is like more yolk colored than lemon colored, but I get what you mean.
we have a cup of powdered sugar. Now, this is an interesting addition because powdered sugar has some added starches, like cornstarch in there, which gives like a chewy texture unto the things that it's added to.
I don't know. I guess it's just my ignorance showing, but I always figure when you have pudding, it's more of a soft condensed type of thing, but
So let's see where this goes. Oh, it's getting thick. All right, it is quite thick and custardy at this point, which means we're moving on to the beating of our egg whites, and we'll fold that into here with our vanilla. Hello, old
Vanilla!
friend.
It didn't say vanilla, Dylan. It's vanilla. Come on, vanilla.
Now, if you're curious as to why it's asking us to fold in our beaten egg whites separately into our beaten yolks and sugar instead of, just beating together the whole eggs and the sugar in one bowl, it's because this contains thousands, millions of little tiny air bubbles that would not have formed if we beat it together with the yolks.
Oh.
Because the yolks contain a fat that would stop this from forming. You'll see this in a lot of old school cake recipes where you would make a cake batter with the yolks and butter and sugar and, all of those standard.
Sorry, that is distracting me like crazy. The stove like going on numbers and stuff. I'm sorry, Dylan. My ADHD brain's really like, ooh, numbers.
And at the very end, it would ask you to beat the reserved egg whites and fold it in normally in 3 additions. It creates airiness, lightness, like an angel food cake-esque texture, but this is not a cake. So let's see where this goes.
I got it because it's supposed to be safe. It's like a pudding. Okay, so that's just the okay. I just noticed that's just the oven having a great time. Or stove, I guess, in this case.
And then the rest. You see how fluffy and foamy and poofy this is? This would not occur if we just beat the whole eggs together with the sugar. Teaspoon of vanilla. Fold this in. And then finally, our first mixture. It's different. Now it's asking us to put this into a 10-inch square pan. And you bakers out there will be sharing in my confusion because that's not really a size that exists. Or at least, not a size that we're familiar with. Normally with square pans, we deal with 8-inch or 9-inch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, okay, even though I don't bake much, I don't remember ever baking anything like when I helped my mama plan with 10-inch or anything like that. Usually it's like 10 by. I don't think I've ever seen a 10 by 10 or something like that.
Cake pans in 10-inch spring forms, but not squares. So I do have a 9 by 11 inch greased pan here, which is the same surface area essentially, so we'll be using that. Oh boy. Okay, it's not giving us a time, but we are to bake this at 350 degrees Fahrenheit until it pulls away from the sides of the pan or until it's done with a toothpick test. In you go. And instead of a...
So I forget what the toothpick test is as I freeze. I forget what a toothpick test is. I can't remember. Toothpick test or see if anything sticks to it. I think, okay, do not quote me on this because I'm I'm a very big noob when it comes to baking and stuff like that. I did the air quotes for no reason, and you can't see it, but I did air quotes for no flipping reason. Anyway, I think what the toothpick test, what you're supposed to do is it's supposed to see if something sticks to the toothpick. Or it's either that or how easy it goes into the item. But yeah.
We'll do a stopwatch. So as we watch this like a hawk, I did want to share with you the fact that even though this is from 1961, it is indeed a facsimile. So it isn't. The first edition was in 1961, and the second edition in 1970, and this is the 30th anniversary edition, printed in 1991.
So okay, so basically it's 1961 in air quotes. Like basically the recipes are from 1961. This is the revised edition in 1991. Interesting.
And the Bethany College in Lindsborg, as well as the Bethany College's auxiliary, still exists. So technically, if I use these reorder forms at the back of this book, it should not go unanswered. All right, it is pulled away from the edges, and the toothpick is clean.
Yes, I was right. Oh my gosh, yes. Holy Benji, I was right. Yeah, because I was thinking about that. Okay, so I do remember the toothpick test. Yay, I'm not a noob. Yay.
Pretty solid, though. We're going to let this cool completely and not...
That looks like a brownie. Like the first one was kind of like a pie cake texture. That looks like brownies.
Poke any more holes in it because our serving instructions are a bit unique. You ready? Come on.
Why don't you grease the pan, Dylan?
Because to serve, we are to break this into bite-sized pieces, place in a sherbet glass, and top with whipped cream. So break into pieces physically, not cut. And I don't own a sherbet glass because I'm not 98 years old. This looks like...
Why not, Dylan? Just get a sherbet glass. Come on.
Croutons. I can't say that this looks appetizing. So if you're curious, the bake time was around the same as last time, half an hour, albeit this was at 350 and not 300. And yeah, cool down completely. This is certainly firmer and more crispier.
I'm actually really curious about this recipe.
Meringue-like top, but really quite an eggy bottom. And I'll tell you, this smells eggy as well. So let's serve this with whipped cream. I have this stuff, which you know really is not that bad. It's the Cool Whip that you got to look out for.
Ooh,
I'm not quite sure what Cool Whip is, but this is just aerosolized. Let's go.
Ow. Oh, whoops.
Yeah. Now you see, I am not a fan of this one. It's eggy in that it smells eggy, it tastes eggy even when completely cooled, and it feels eggy. It's rubbery and chewy in a manner that's not quite appealing.
So it's not rich at all. It's got no texture.
And I'm just not quite sure what it's trying to be. I mean, serving crumbled up, like crusty things with whipped cream on top. Have you ever had a dessert look like that? And for whatever reason, that nice
not really,
date
no, I was
flavor that
looking at it.
in the 1909 recipe that I was telling you about is not present here. It's lost. And the vanilla is not making itself known, and overall just making it a strange dessert. And you know, it has the consistency and like the taste almost of an omelet. And I don't want that in my desserts. Now, if you're anything like me, you would say that this food for the gods was baked for too long and the first recipe wasn't baked for long enough. However, this did not begin to pull away from the sides of the pan, nor be able to have a toothpick be removed cleanly until it reached this point. So although this was an interesting stop on our journey through food for the gods, it's not a stop I'm inclined to stay at for too long. Yeah, it's just weird. Which is why now we are moving on to the internet. We're gonna ask Google as to what it thinks.
Oh, no.
Odds is, because despite my love for old cookbooks, I can't deny that the internet is now the preeminent repository for recipes.
Alright, what's WikiHow, how to make the food of the gods.
It's the foremost understanding of a given recipe, i.e. the most popular version. So what we're gonna do now is I've just put in a Google search for food for the gods, and we're gonna start from the most obscure and then quickly blitz our way up to the most popular. And don't worry, I'm not going to bore you because I'm quite aware that I'm likely the only one this interested in this degree of recipe ancestry, but let's go. Alrighty, so we're starting off on a website called justapinch.com with a food for the gods recipe by a Miss Karen Dunn. And look at what she's really looking at the camera. She is right up in there. She says this recipe has been in our family for years and years. And if we scroll down, oh, what do we see? Half a pound of chopped English walnuts. They really like the English walnuts. And the same amount of dates. So we've got walnuts, English walnuts, and dates again in the same quantities. But she uses, looky here, crushed soda crackers. So she uses soda cracker crumbs. Soda crackers are just saltines. However, this is the largest amount we've seen. 9 tablespoons. That's just... what is that if I do quick math? That's a half a cup plus a tablespoon. Yeah, so that's a lot.
Oh, wow, that's actually good math, Dylan. You're quick math.
It might just be a lot because if we see here, she uses 6 egg yolks and 6 egg whites. So she does separate the two. 2 cups of sugar, okie dokie. And again, the perennial 2 teaspoons of baking powder. If we scroll down to the method here, what does she do? She makes the baking powder and the sugar, add the dates, nuts, egg yolks, and oh, okay, whoa. She just throws everything into a bowl. The only thing she does separately is to beat the egg whites and fold them up. So they've been beaten stiff. So that's the same sort of method as our 1961 recipe, right? Which means that this recipe is going to essentially do the same thing as the last one, whereby the egg white meringue mixture is going to float to the top and get all crispy and quite hard, whilst the underneath with the egg yolks and the dates and the sugar is going to get quite chewy and leathery and omelet and eggy-like, which I didn't like about our 1961 recipe. Which is confirmed here as we see that she pours this into a 9x13 pan that hasn't been greased and bakes it at 350 for 30 minutes, which is the same amount of time that we baked the 1961 recipe. So
it's good guesswork, okay.
Have the same consistency, the same texture. So I suppose I did not do that incorrectly, but let's move on. Here we have a Food for the Gods recipe from December 2007 from a personal blog called etherwork.net. And take a gander at these! Man, they look they look crispy, don't they? This small dish contains food for the gods in air quotes. Yeah, you're damn right about that. You know how some children's playgrounds have those like wood chips on the...
Yeah, that's
good. Anyway, let's see the recipe.
Let's go.
Oh, we don't actually have a written recipe. Oh, she's taken a picture of a piece of paper, and obviously she's done so with a calculator. Computer enhance! All right, so she uses 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs. That's a lot. She says, Mother's recipe says 10 graham crackers. Well, Mother knows best. Why are you disrespecting her?
Yeah, don't disrespect
brown
Mama.
Sugar. This is the first time we have seen brown sugar. Cup of chopped dates. Again, we're used to. Cup of chopped nuts. This lady did not specify. She says she used cashews. She only uses 2 eggs, so this is going to be comparatively dry. She mixes everything together, and she used a 9x12 pan. I don't know where people are finding these arbitrary sizes. The most interesting thing about this is she rolls them in sugar, white sugar, as you can see up here. Well, as you won't be able to see because she's, yeah, God, this is like in my nightmares. What is this? Here's a recipe on a Spartan-looking page on recipegoldmine.com. Looking at the ingredients, we have 3 eggs. We're used to that. We're not used to a tablespoon of milk. What's that for? I have no idea. Probably just good luck. Moving on, we have 10 graham crackers, just like Mama used, rolled into crumbs. Okay, so here's graham cracker crumbs again. Cup of brown sugar. 2 teaspoons of baking powder makes the return. The last strange, wood chips recipe didn't have it, understandably. We have a return of the walnuts and a return of the dates. There's no separation of egg whites and egg yolks. Baked in a greased 8-inch at 350 for 30 to 40 minutes. And when cool, spread with butter icing. Interesting. So this is like a butter icing, like a buttercream, I suppose, and topped with walnuts. So that's about the most interesting thing about this recipe. But what have we next? Here's one on cakecentral.com, written by Anonymous with the descriptor light.
By the way, a little quick thing. I do like how we're taking this sojourn to all the cake recipes and stuff like that. There's little, not cake recipes, like the cake to the food of the gods. I like that. It's nice, informative, and I like it.
Fond of the word eggy because I use it enough, don't I? However, not when it comes to the taste or the smell or the texture. I really don't like that. Save that for my breakfast. But this person seems to think that's a good thing. To each their own, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I do not reckon we need to spend too long on this because look at this ingredients list. We have seen this before. What is the method? Separate the eggs. Okay, so
Dylan be like, I played these games before. I love that. I played these games before.
Yolks and the whites separately. Oh, look. Beat the egg yolks until light and lemon colored. We have that repeat again.
Yep.
But looky here. Pour the batter into an ungreased loaf pan. That's 9x5. That is going to be really quite thick. So I'm curious as to what the texture to this one's going to be. Now here's a looker. This is a no-bake recipe for Food for the Gods on allrecipes.com. And looking at that, well, it's hard to because this was taken by a thermostat. Moving down to the ingredients list, this person uses whole graham crackers in addition to graham cracker crumbs. For the first time, we have butter. We have brown sugar, only 1 beaten egg.
So I also noticed this too on the little location here. I think if Dylan were to click on that, I think it takes you directly to what butter they use, like what exactly the place the butter they got it from. Like, I got this type butter from this type of place or something like that. I could be wrong though.
Sharing something with the early 1909 recipes that I told you about from Boston that did not call for dates but just generally dried fruit. But we do still have a cup of walnuts. But look here, there's an icing again. Half a cup of butter, evaporated milk, vanilla custard powder. You boil the butter, the sugar, you boil the egg too, and stir in the graham cracker crumbs. Oh, that just looks a right mess. Here is where we start getting into the meaty bits. This is a recipe for Food for the Gods on the QuirinoKitchen.com, written by a Miss Elizabeth Ann. And she informed me of how popular something called Food for the Gods is over in the Philippines, especially around holidays and things.
Oh, so you got inside? No, it's not insider trade info. What the fuck? You got some info. Okay, that's kind of cool.
And her recipe here, she describes it as Food for the Gods, dates and raisins bars. And if we move down, looky, they kind of look like blondies, don't they? And
ooh.
Taking a gander at the ingredients list, we can see that this is completely different. Here we have quite a lot of flour, gone are the cracker crumbs, quite a large amount of butter. There's a mixture of white and brown sugar. The whole eggs are there. Vanilla extract, combination of soda and powder. There's even molasses. So that's a cake. That's cake sponge type things right here. Completely different to what we've seen prior. But we have seen, again, the walnuts there. There's added raisins, but we also have our cup of chopped dates. Well, they look good just by taking a look at them, don't they? Which segues us arguably to the most popular Food for the Gods recipe I could find through a Google search.
Okay.
Which lies on allrecipes.com again. And like the previous Filipino Food for the Gods that we saw, this resembles a blondie. It's a cake by the looks of it. Completely different to the ones that we were seeing previously.
That actually looks good. That looks really good.
It's really quite got some meat, something you can sink your teeth into. Again, yeah, this is flour based. a combination of baking powder, baking soda, salt. We got dates again, returns. Without boring you too much by staying on this page for too long, it looks to be just a batter method, like a cake method. Start by creaming together your butter and your sugars. So if this is what the internet knows is food for the gods, why don't we give it a shot?
All right, let's do it.
Instructions, we have a cup of unsalted butter in this bowl, and we're starting with a cup of brown.
Hang on, let me judge your sidebar real quick here, Dylan. Let me check it. Are you using a MacBook? Because I recognize that setting thing. That's on iOS, isn't it? I'm using a MacBook. Interesting. Okay, Spotify, FaceTime, Adobe Reader. Did Adobe Reader get discontinued? Am I bugging on that? Anyway, Spotify, Chromium, because basically you have Chrome on everything, and yeah.
Sugar and a cup of white sugar. I am telling you, once you discover sugar in a carton, it will change your life. Then we cream these two together. Yes, of course, you can use a mixer.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. Stuff in the carton has been better. Like milk in the carton's more delicious. Yeah, I agree.
And that, if you can't tell by my wrists, this is the only exercise I get anyway.
I can make a joke about that, but I'm shutting my mouth.
Next, we beat in 3 eggies one at a time. Also, does anyone else put their shells back in the carton? Quite a few people find it gross, but honestly, I'm not bothered by it. I'm just lazy.
You're just... Wait, isn't it more effort to put them in? I just put them in the compost or something. Or actually, I just throw them away or stuff like that. I don't know.
In goes
That looks like peanut butter. Not gonna lie.
number 2. Was getting sloppy. And finally, number 3.
3!
And you see, at this point, we're left with quite a silky smooth batter. This is completely different to the previous recipes we have done. But I mean, who's to say it's gonna be bad? Come now, in this bowl is a 1.25 cups of all-purpose flour sifted alongside a half teaspoon of baking soda, half teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now, the step prior to the beating together of butter and sugars and eggies and all of that nonsense asked us to take a 1/2 cup of this mixture and add it to our cup of chopped walnuts and cup of chopped dates. Now, that's an old trick. The flouring of nuts and fruits and other add-ins before adding it to the batter proper to prevent all of this from sinking to the bottom of your pan whilst baking, so that you do not end up with like a layer of just plain cake and then a stodgy clump of all of your add-ins at the very bottom. I'm going to do that. I have no qualms about that, but I am going to ask if you guys have any strong opinions on that. Do you swear by it? Do you say, no, it doesn't do anything? I've been told that it's a wives' tale, but we're gonna do it. Truly,
I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments if you want to. Let me know. Is it a wives' tale or is it not?
Couldn't care less about sunken fruits, heavens, that's how I feel half the time. But my reason for not doing this is just because there's a proclivity for flour to get stuck within the crevices of the dates and the walnuts and not fully mix into the batter whilst baking. So afterwards you'll take a bite of something and amidst your nuts and your fruit is just plain uncooked flour. So that's my only reason for not doing this. But you know, I often say when it comes to baking, if what you're doing works, don't let people tell you what to do. Right now, before we fold everything together, I'm just going to grease this here 9x13 pan, which has been fitted with a parchment sling, and that's just a piece of parchment paper.
Well, hang on, Dylan, wait. Can I go back real quick? Can you do that face again?
I'm just going to grease this here 9x13 pan, which has been fitted with a parchment sling, and that's...
Wow! What the heck, Dylan? Wait, sorry, no, that noticed me for a minute. Hang on. Draw a cross-eye, what the flip? That actually might be the thumb. Holy Benji, Dylan.
And that's just a piece of parchment paper which has been cut so that its 2 ends are exceeding the sides of the pan. And I'm just going to be using Pam, which sounds like pan, but isn't. Pam the pan, the pan, pan the pan. First in goes
Pam.
the flour mixture. La da 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 da. Oh lord.
La da 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 da. Sorry, I know that's not what Dylan was doing, but that just made me think of that thing.
The oven is almost preheated, so let's get this into the pan. I think we're about ready. Oh, good timing. So this goes in at 350 for 10 minutes, but then we do actually reduce the heat to 300 degrees Fahrenheit for a ½ hour to 40 minutes.
So I am a very novice when it comes to baking. Here's the question I always have for this. Why do you reduce the heat of certain foods? That has been something I've always wondered. Is I like, okay, and what I mean is for cooking, not to keep warm. I'm talking about like when you're still cooking it. Why do you reduce the heat? Is it because if you leave it too high, it cooks too fast, it can ruin the ingredients, or what? I'm very curious about that.
Showtime. All right, take a look at this. It smells amazing. So we need to let this cool, and then we cut it specifically to 36 bars. Oh boy,
That's
oh
a bar.
Boy, oh boy. And this is what we are left with, the most popular
That looks really, really good.
recipe for food for the gods on the internet. And I mean, it doesn't really look like the picture, does it? But it seldom does, let's be honest.
That looks very good, Dylan. Yeah, I was gonna say that's gotta be good.
Oh, wow. It's good. I like it, but it's very rich and it's very fatty. If you take a look at the proportions of the recipe, there's almost a 1-to-1 ratio between the butter and the flour. So it makes sense as to why it's this oily. But with that being said, it's good. It's a good like variation on a blondie. That's also why I didn't stop my mission here, because there are a lot of blondies in the world. It is cakey and there are a lot of cakes in the world. It did not get me as excited as that first 1909 recipe with its unique combination of texture and flavors. So with this being explored, how about we rewind a little bit? Yes, if it wasn't painfully obvious by now, I have baked all of these before. I have been through this gauntlet just a few times.
Okay.
Because let me tell you, healthy experimentation is a necessary process toward the goal of writing a cookbook. Speaking of, in my cookbook baking
Time to flex. All right, he's flexing. It's his flex time. Let him flex. Let's go.
Find my recipe for food for the gods situated within the 1900s section. Specifically, you'll find it on page 32. And you'll find it nestled quaintly within the aughts because it has indeed been derived from our first 1909 Michigan Federation Food for the Gods recipe. However, it has since been rewritten, adapted, workshopped, and vetted to be not only replicable, but if I dare say, better. So with mine, I began by slashing the recipe in half. So instead of being based on the whites of 6 eggs, my recipe is instead based upon the whites of 3. The largest change
You madman!
I made was increasing the dry ingredient proportions, the cracker crumb proportions in regard to wet by nearly 3-fold. And I did indeed specify the usage of graham cracker crumbs because I really quite like that flavor, that nuttiness. Plus, like the Filipino varieties or some of the cakey varieties of food for the gods that we saw, I like the fact that you could sink your teeth into those, right? They had some bite and they held up on their own. Because let's face it, near most anything served with whipped cream is bound to taste good. So that was the reasoning behind increasing the graham cracker crumb proportions. Plus, it actually helps prevent a lot of the weeping that we saw with that first recipe. Another thing that I really quite respected about the Filipino varieties and some of the other 1909 recipes that I was telling you about was the fact that they did not restrict themselves to only dates. Sometimes they had raisins in addition to dates, or sometimes raisins and a whole other host of dried fruits in place of dates, which is why in my recipe, you'll find that I actually call for dried apricots. Why? Because not only were they widely used at the time, but because they slap. I'm beginning to realize I said I'm likely boring you to death by just being sat here wagging my chin, so shall we bake the bloody thing?
It's fine. It's fine, no, Dylan. You're being very informative. This is very informative. This is very informative. I am liking it. I'm just curious though. I wonder if because a lot of dried. Actually, I think I know this. Maybe because dried stuff was a lot more cheaper to make and use rather than fresh ingredients, or maybe dried stuff just give you more texture. Maybe.
Begin by appeasing the French and getting everything in place before we even deal with the whites of the eggies. Starting with cracker crumbs. Now you can go ahead and use the pre-made variety. I'm quite a big fan of these myself. I use them a lot in things like pie crusts. However, I don't think they taste as good. Plus, you need to watch the sodium on these, the salt on these, depending on the brand you use. You can end up adding in a lot more than you're intending. So if you use pre-made crumbs, maybe reduce the salts that you'll end up seeing later on. But returning to the subject of flavor and...
So, side note, I'm going to leave this as a video for YouTube. I don't have echo. I don't think I do and stuff like that. I just looked. I could have possibly had echo because one of the volume nods that I have on my OBS, it's muted, but I can see it popping up like crazy, and I had a little scare real quick of it trying to do something. So I'm going to actually, just in case I accidentally unmute this, I am going to change what this is supposed to do so that way it does not do the little spike anymore. So if any chance I accidentally mute that, you're not going to get the echo. But I don't think you'll be getting echo this video, but yeah.
Taste. I actually prefer using whole graham crackers and then rolling them into my own crumbs. Specifically, I like to use the National Biscuit Company's graham crackers. I think they taste a little better, however, I reckon it's simply just because I'm a fan of history. I'm told that this variety is a lot more prevalent. However,
oh my gosh, I used to eat those so much. I used to eat those so much. I used to eat like a pack of those when I was young. I've kind of been trying to stay away from that. That's a little unhealthy, but sometimes I'm like, I can't have it. I want more. Give me more.
if you're anything like me and you inhabit any of His Majesty's territories, you're not going to be coming across graham crackers very easily. So a lot of bakers will tell you to substitute, in equal measure, things like digestive biscuits all crumbed up. However, I'm a big fan of using malted milk biscuits, specifically Tesco's variety, all made into crumbs, so give that a shot if you're so inclined.
With my recipe, we will be needing a half cup of cracker crumbs, meaning this shall be more than enough. Now you can go ahead and make your own cracker crumbs in a food processor. However, I have this crazy theory. Can I prove it? No. I think that physical labor tastes good. This also goes along with my core philosophy of believing that one does not need any fancy kitchen equipment to make things that taste good. Make sure your crumbs are very fine. It's quite paramount.
That is okay. So that's how you make them. I've always wondered how one makes those types, but
I of course kept the walnuts, but because the recipe is now in half, we'll only be needing a half cup chopped.
Chop, chop,
I
Dylan.
want a black walnut tree. Now for the half cup of chopped dried
That was random.
apricots. Do make sure that these are chopped particularly fine, because elsewise they can be quite chewy. Also, I'm surprised you've not made a comment on my quantity of bananas back there. Look, I'm a lonely man. Now, I've had many a conversation with a great number of people who seem
What do you mean by that, Dylan? No. Bad. Bad. Bob, no. I wasn't even thinking. Bad, Dylan!
to hate old cookbooks simply because of how vague or open-ended they can be in regard to their add-ins, in regard to their ingredients. I.e. many cookbooks from the 1900s, 1910s, right the way up through the 60s might just say, add in a half cup of nuts, or half cup of dried fruit. Whereas people today seem to quite prefer just to be told what to use, right? Tell me to use raisins, don't leave it up to me. I don't want to have to think.
Yeah, why?
Facetious now, but truthfully, baking was quite different back then. It was more so about utilizing what you had lying about your kitchen to make something of sustenance than it was strictly adhering to what a recipe was supposed to be. Take my recipe, for example. I called for half a cup of dried apricots because one, the flavor profile in tandem with graham crackers, I think is brilliant.
Yeah, we don't tend to experiment much anymore. We tend to like play it safe, like, oh, well, the direction said this, I'm doing this. I don't know.
2, they were widely used at the time. However, I still keep the historical suggestion of dates alongside the suggestion that you could use any dried fruit. Use currants if you got them. Are you a Fig Newton fanatic? Use figs. This is our half cup of dried apricots. You have cut too much. What a shame. Guess I'll have to have a snack. We also need 1 cup of granulated
that sounds so
sugar
good. I
at
want
the
a snack of
ready.
those.
So
That
for my
sounds good.
recipe, I call for a 9-inch spring form fitted with a parchment round, and we are going to lightly grease both the parchment and the sides. And then I actually like to go in with a paper towel and spread it around, plus wipe out any excess. No matter what you say, still suits me. Only 3 egg whites.
You know what? I was going to say, I didn't know you could sing. He literally has a cover on one of his channels, so I might listen to one of those days. But yeah, he has a cover on his channel. Boop.
Now, what was simultaneously the most significant and insignificant addition in my recipe was simply the use of salt. I call for a half teaspoon. It really needed it because it's quite a sweet dessert. We actually beat the half teaspoon with
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, a lot of people don't like sweet things. Too sweet, I guess. But yeah.
the egg whites. Again, watch the sodium in your graham crackers or your graham cracker crumbs. You'd be surprised at how wildly they can vary between brands. If you want to be safe, do just use a 1/4 teaspoon. For the egg whites, I ask us to beat them stiff, and then once they're stiff, we gradually beat in the sugar, 2 tablespoons at a time, until stiff and glossy. So this is what you're looking for when beating egg whites stiff.
That looks good. That looks like frosty. Okay, Dylan, I'm sorry. That was my ADHD kicking in. Hang on. Do the pointing thing up again.
Around. Do not underestimate the amount of time this takes. This took me about...
No, Dylan. Do the thing pointing up again. I want to show this real quick. I'm so sorry, Dylan. I know you didn't do this, but I gotta point it out. Let's see if I can get it real quick, because I don't remember. Hang on. Let me go to that real quick.
So this is what you're looking for when beating egg whites stiff. The peak should be standing
Yeah, my stupid brain processed that. I thought he was holding up the other finger. I know he's not, but still.
straight up, not flopping over. Even
Sorry,
when you move
my
it
brain
around.
didn't process
Do not
that right. I'm like,
underestimate
wait,
the
no,
amount
he
of
didn't
time
do
this
that.
takes. This took me about 6-7 minutes. At which point we fold in the cracker crumbs, but not all at once, and that just aids in even distribution. And then our chopped dried fruit and our chopped walnuts. Oh, look at that. It even smells good. Yes, for the pan, I do instruct the use of a 9-inch springform with a parchment round, both lightly greased. It just makes things a lot easier and a lot less messy. However, I also realize that not everyone has a springform, and my philosophy with my cookbook is that I never wanted anyone to feel left out. So, you can actually make my Food for the Gods recipe in a standard 9-inch pie plate. Pie pan, if you have one.
Ew, pie! I don't like pie! Also, I'll say it again. I don't like pie. No, I do not like it. I don't care if pizza's a pie. Shut up. It's not a pie. Shut up! And pie is a dessert. It's not a pizza. Shut up. I know it's from the pie family. Shut up.
Sides. Just know that it might come out looking a little bit gnarly. So if you don't care about appearances, and you don't have a springform, go to town. But just dollop this in evenly, then you lightly press down and even it out, trying not to move the parchment. Do smooth the top as best you can. And then into the oven at 325 Fahrenheit for about 35 to 40 minutes, and by then the top should be a pale gold color. So as one can see, the difference in at least ingredients between my recipe and the original 1909 recipe was not that magnitudinous. Sure, I switched up the dry ingredient proportions. I added some salt. I got rid of the baking powder, which is not needed in meringues, right? If you do your meringue properly, you're gonna get enough leavening, enough air bubbles, enough lift. And, you know, even if baking powder were to add a bit more leavening,
see the tripod.
it makes it even more hormonal and liable to fall if you don't do things absolutely correctly. So yeah, the changes with regard to ingredients was not that major. And that's for good reason, because you go about switching things up too much, and you're no longer going to have a Food for the Gods recipe from 1909. In my mind, this is a great way of staying true to the original recipe and making it replicable, and that latter point is what recipe development is all about. Most of my work with this recipe, and indeed the greater cookbook, came from workshopping the method, because as I think I've proven, the recipes in old cookbooks are spotty, to say the least.
Okay, I'm gonna ask this during the end, and this is actually a question. I'm actually curious.
So it has been 40 minutes and this looks good. So what I'm going to do is turn off the oven, actually leave the pan within the oven and crack the door. Leave the door ajar for about 30 minutes to allow this to dry, which is a bit of a nonsense term. What we're really just doing is allowing this to come to room temperature less intrusively, which helps to guard against cracking. And your oven should actually have an indentation, much like a car door at this point, which I like to think is specifically for this purpose. Before you do this, if it doesn't look done, even at 40 minutes, if it's still moving up and down or breathing, so to speak, you can leave it in the oven at temperature past 40 minutes. This is most likely to happen if you're using a pie pan, and if that pie pan happens to be glass. I've never liked the baking characteristics of glassware, especially when paired with a parchment round. The bottom has a tendency to get undercooked and gooey, and no one likes a soggy bottom, as we all know. Okay, the half hour is up, which means we are just going to take it out of the oven and then let it cool to room temperature completely. That's very important, and that should only take about 20 to 30 minutes. Once completely cool, run a thin, sharp knife along the edge. And behold the beauty of my recipe. And then with a cutting board at the ready, all you need to do is invert gently, remove, and then just take off the parchment paper.
Ooh, fancy!
So in this manner, my recipe is a tort. Not a tort in the sense of a multi-layered filled cake, but tort in the sense of a cake that is not bound by flour, but rather nuts or crumbs. This, of course, being graham cracker crumbs. It's very similar to a dacquoise. And the great thing about my recipe is that it can be sliced. Just by visualizing it, I hope you can see how incredibly unique this texture is. All right, here we go, and I'm just gonna pick it up.
Nom 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 nom. That looks very good. Yeah, I was gonna.
I mean, it's just heaven. Truthfully, it is. It's got that nice slight airiness like that of a French macaron, yet the chewiness, the bright notes of the apricot, contrasted with the nuttiness of not only the walnuts, right, but the graham cracker crumbs. And it's all in this very unique, chewy marshmallow.
That looks very good. I love this.
And very delicate crispness on top. It's fantastic. Because let's face it, we've had the pies, we've had the cakes, we've served the cookies. We love them, but they're familiar. The past has proven to me to hold so many new, exciting varieties and desserts, such as Food for the Gods. And I think it's just the most wonderful thing. But of course, they aren't new, are they? They're just begging to be rediscovered. And that that's what baking yesteryear is all about, if you don't mind my saying. Yes, it is chock full of all things wild, wacky, and
little
wonderful.
plug,
I've
go
crammed
ahead.
101 recipes
Plug
in here
your
for
stuff,
you.
King.
Everything from unique dessert perspectives like food for the gods to fan favorites that I've done on my TikTok.
So
and of course,
what I
plenty
might,
of beloved
so what I might do, is one of these days I might buy one of his books. We might start cooking from his recipes. I wonder if he's got some of those failed recipes in there. Or I wonder if he took a failed recipe and made it good. That'd be interesting.
I do hope that today's exploration gave at least a little bit of insight into the
It's a little bit of information overload, but it was still good. It was very good.
and the work I put into baking.
By the way, if you all see me yawning, do not think I'm bored of this video. No, I am not. It's just, it's coming down at the end of the work week, stuff like that. My days off are coming off from my real jobs. I get a wee bit tired, and this is information overload, so my brain's going.
Yesteryear, and the rest of it's 100 recipes.
I am completely interested in this though, but due to my ADHD, I gotta be doing 3,000 things at once. So on the side here, you'll see me like freezing my model, but you'll see me like over here checking my messages, over here checking my Twitter, and stuff like that. But I am making sure I'm focusing on the video. But yeah.
Honestly, it is a child of mine, and I am very proud of it. With that being said, I still can't
I really do want to get that book and like cook it itself and make it a video and see how it works, but we'll see. We'll see.
Keep this recipe from you, so even if you don't want to buy the book, I understand. You'll still find buy recipe for food for the gods in the description below.
You're not gonna gatekeep it? Thank you, Dylan!
I'll also pop in the original 1909 Michigan Federation recipe if you want to give that a crack.
Ooh, there's outro music, ooh.
Thank you kindly for sticking around for this long, and I hope to be seeing you quite soon.
Ooh. Hey. Somebody watched the whole thing. Yes, I watched the whole thing, Dylan. What the flip was that at the end, Dylan? Let me see that. What was that at the end? What the flip? What the flip, Dylan? Okay, anyway. Alright, well then, that was a video right there. I'm going to freeze real quick because my model doesn't want to work properly. But yeah, that was fantastic. A lot of informational stuff. I'm so glad I guessed the toothpick thing right. But yeah, one of the things I've been wondering, and this is no discredit Dylan. I know he does a lot of off-screen stuff, but I wonder for these long form videos if there's a little bit of scripting involved, just because I'm not doubting him at all. He's very good at cooking, but it is sometimes to reiterate the information, so I wonder if like he's making sure he gets all information, so there's some of his stuff is scripted or stuff like that, and it's translation, or if he's doing it unscripted and like he does some takes of the stuff like that. I don't know, it would be an interesting thing to know about and stuff like that. But yeah, I always love watching his videos, his long forms, his short forms and stuff like that. They're very informational. This one was a long one, by the way. I think it's gonna be like an over-hour video, but that's fine. I really enjoy these. These were very good. It's got some stuff in there. It's a nice differential take on his videos on the stuff, because you get the short run, like the quick comedy, snappy stuff, the quick combat, the entertainment stuff like that. Then you got the nice chill vibe information, kind of like a cooking class with Dylan, and I like that a lot, and I hope all you did too. If you like what you saw, watch my model freeze as I say this, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. This is streamed live on Twitch, pod_screening at twitch.com. If you want to go ahead and come, if you want to support the video, to support the original video, not if you want, because that's rude. To support the original video, go ahead and look at the description below, click the link, go on there. If you want to check out the channel itself, the link to the channel will be in the title of this video. Just look for the @ and it will be right there. With that in mind, I hope you all enjoy it. I know I did. This was fantastic. A little long, but hey, long ain't so bad. It's so long after all. And I'll see y'all next time. Peace. Bye, bye, bye.